Hey everybody, welcome back to Brain Muffin at the Movies, and here we have an interesting admission from Mr. Bob Iger. This is all over the interwebs, where apparently he admits in his new autobiography that George Lucas felt betrayed. This really is starting to bring the fandom menace all together. We had Mark Hamill before the Last Jedi came out. He kept dropping hints that we wouldn't like it. He didn't like things even with The Force Awakens. He even said, you know, everything's changed, but nothing's changed in some of the stuff, you know, the promotional pieces and some of the behind-the-scenes stuff. And, you know, Lucas had an interesting exploring of the Force and the wills and all that. And I don't know how good that, I mean, I've heard what some of the treatment was, and I don't know how good it would have been. But this copying of the original trilogy is just insane. And what I like about what Iger says in there in his book, to me, says what I've been kind of saying all along, that Disney was behind all the hate for the prequels, because the prequels were not hated when they were out. It took a while and to get George to sell. And I've seen some other videos. I think Midnight's Eds was doing something where Iger realized they needed content, because the big tech companies that were Apple and Google and others that were starting to really rise to the front, like Amazon, they could buy these studios, and they needed content. That's part of why he's bought Fox, is why he's acquired Lucasfilm. And of course they have to put the Disney spin on it. Now, you know, in many ways, this is what even Walt Disney did this, right? He buys the rights to the Grimm fairy tales, he redoes them. Yes, he cleans them up, but yeah, he makes them more family friendly. If you read the originals, they're nothing like what you see on screen. So this is from the Huffington Post. I mean, I've got stuff from the Huffington Post. We've got, now that one didn't line up very well. The comicbook.com. We have CNET. We have Entertainment. I think this is Entertainment Weekly. And Independent as well. And it's the same thing over and over again. So this is from the Huffington Post. This one lines up the best. Not usually a HuffPo reader, but good grief. I mean, this is from the UK version. There was a great disturbance in the Force, at least the Disney executive suite. In his new book, A Ride of a Lifetime, lessons learned from 15 years as CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Now, I wonder, he comes out with this. There has been rumors that for almost a year, that the board is losing confidence in Iger, and they really want him to step down. I've seen videos, I've seen little bits of articles. It's all been speculation, obviously, and rumor, or at least he's perhaps aiming towards stepping down. I even thought that J.J. Abrams was perhaps going to be one day in charge of Disney, actually, because of the way he was getting Bad Robot into everything. And now he's over at Warner. He's over, you know, doing some stuff with the DCEU. Who knows? Maybe he's just going to own it all at some point, but or at least get Bad Robot in as the producing company for everything. So we'll see. And you know, there's also been rumors that Kathleen Kennedy has been, you know, summarily fired, and that was last year, and here it is. She's still around, although her presence is much lessened. So it could be one of these things where they're just going to gracefully bow out and not make a big fanfare. And Iger's got multiple problems. The Walt Disney Company's losing money. Now you have the SEC investigation. You have the whistleblower who said that they've been cooking the books for several years. You have them closing minor parks. You have them putting a lot of money into Galaxy's Edge, and no one's showing up. I mean, when it first opens, there's a little bit of a hate, but once the novelty wears off, I know several people have gone. They're like, there's no lines for anything. And I actually know someone who had a reaction to one of their drinks and almost died. So it was the one that was supposed to numb your lips or something like that, and had a horrific reaction to the chemicals in it. And granted, now he's older. He's in his 60s, I think, if I remember correctly. I mean, he's quite a bit older than I am. I haven't seen him in 40 years, but you know, when he was a college student. So, or late 50s, early 60s. So you know, there's some just goofiness going on here, and I don't mean no pun intended there, but they are just really losing stuff. So so this is kind of quoting comicbook.com reported that Iger's book describes how the company purchased the 3 Star Wars outlines from Lucas around the time of Disney bought Lucasfilm in 2012 for $4 billion. Iger said they made it clear to Lucas when they purchased the outlines they would not be contractually obligated to use them. Lucas agreed reluctantly to act as a consultant on the new films, but when the company's filmmakers finally met to discuss the new plots, Lucas was not happy. And you know, Abrams has hinted at this. He even said there in one of the interview that I've heard, he said there came a time when we just had to say kind of goodbye to Lucas, and I think it's because of what they were doing. And there is a video I know. I think is it after the first movie or for the first movie? JJ's got a bunch of, he's got an iPad and he has these little video clips of people asking him questions, and Lucas is one of them, and he asks, hey, JJ, whatever happened to Darth Vader's grandkids? And I think that was the very hints of hey, they didn't really do anything. There was a lot of EU stuff they could have utilized and brought to movies and expanded on, but they decided to just copy and paste. But that's all JJ does. And there was this this idea that they had to reboot the thing essentially but not making a reboot, and that's why we got a remake of A New Hope. They got the cinematography type aspects right, and they got some of the look and feel right, but they did not get the story elements right. And that is a big, you know, that's the essence of Star Wars. I think that's what was missing from the prequels. The spectacular of the prequels was there, but the story elements just weren't polished enough. And without Lucas and his creative team that he had for the original series around him to knock the barnacles off, say no to horrible ideas, rework some things, it could have been much better. The problem was that was just Lucas Unchained, and that was an issue. But you get that a little bit in the, if anybody's seen the uncut version of A New Hope, you can see that it's like, yeah, this looks a lot like the prequels, but done in the 70s. And he needed that. He needs those people around him to help get to the core of the ideas, burn off the bad stuff, and really have a great story. George immediately got upset as they began to describe the plot, and it dawned on him they weren't using one of the stories he submitted during the negotiations. Iger added, now in the first meeting with him about Star Wars, the future of Star Wars, George felt betrayed. And while his whole process would never have been easy for him, we've gotten off to an unnecessarily rocky start. And that may be in part why he says in the Charlie Rose interviews that he sold his children to the white slavers when he talks about Disney. And this probably, that interview is probably after all this, and he was right. That was Lucas' first reaction to the ideas, and it seems as if you didn't change much. Yeah, because you basically rewrote the original trilogy. Iger also wrote that Lucas didn't hide his disappointment when he saw the screening of 2015 The Force Awakens and complained it had nothing new, which is true. Lucas stirred controversy around the time when he described how it felt to sell to Disney. I said, I sold them to the white slavers. This is right, from the Charlie Rose interview, that I sold them to the white slavers that take these things. And he said in an interview, he also said Disney execs weren't that keen to have him involved. Yeah, of course not. Especially since he was not. Now, if he had been gung ho and went, oh my gosh, it's awesome idea. That's better than my ideas. They would have loved to have him around. But you don't want to have, negative Nelly around your movie set. Also said, okay, I'll go my way. And I wish he would have made. He said he was going to take that money and make the movies he wanted to make. I wish he would have done that. Lucas later apologized for white slavers' comments, said he was thrilled. Yeah, so they must have gotten to him somehow. In this new book, Iger did not detail the plot of the treatments they bought. However, Lucas told fellow filmmaker James Cameron that he had wanted to explore the microbiotic world of Star Wars. You see, and this is that metachlorians garbage. This is why I think these aren't any better than what Disney did. They operate differently than we do. I call them the wills, and the wills are the ones who actually control the universe. They feed off the Force. Lucas used the analogy of people as vehicles for the wills to travel in. We're vessels for them in the conduit. Okay, the conduit is the metachlorians. The midi-chlorians are also ones that communicate with the wills. The wills, in a general sense, they are the Force. See, it's better when it stayed a mystic realm in Empire. So there we go. So one comment, boohoo. But basically, that was kind of a synopsis of the thing. This goes into a bit more detail. I wish I would have. Can I move this? I don't know if I can move it over. I can move this whole thing. There we go. It's Kathy and Alan had discussed the direction the saga would go, and we all agreed that it wasn't what George had outlined. And George knew we weren't contractually bound to anything. But you lied to him. Kathy lied to his face that they were going to treat those characters with respect and dignity, and they did no such thing. Disney sequel trilogy ultimately incorporated ideas that resembled Lucas. Lucas once envisioned a female Jedi Padawan, Kira, eventually internalized as Daisy Ridley's Rey. Well, we had female Jedi in the prequels as well, although they were all alien. Well, they're all aliens technically. And in Age Exile, Luke played by a returning Mark Hamill. The story between in training Rey and a reluctant teacher Luke, and it was inspired in part. Yeah, inspired. Although I have to admit that when they're in the temple talking, that's actually pretty good stuff. Pretty good dialogue. Lucas commented on his plans of the sequel 2018, as Lucas told it the trilogy was going to go. Yeah, okay, so that we've already read that portion, and only 3 comments. And so again, CNET, it's pretty much the same thing over and over again. And you know, some of the fandom minutes are saying, you know, Lucas is one of us, and so is Mark Hamill. And I think in spirit, they're not going to get as worked up about it as some of the members of the fandom minutes do. But again, you know, here's Entertainment Weekly, Betrayed. This is awesome because and maybe Iger's coming out with this now so that by the time the movie comes out, people have forgotten. Should have sold Lucas. Yeah, exactly. Brandon realized he was massively undervalued. It was when he sold it. That's right. Disney time and Disney is not making. No, they won't easily make that much money from it because the toys aren't selling. Everything thinks that Star Wars suck. Can I vote that up? Yeah. About this news, yeah. So anyway, it's pretty awesome this week. This is great news for the Fandom Menace that even the creator, and of course we've been saying this for a while. If you just look at his reaction, especially the Charlie Rose interview, is really telling. And you know that this is just crap. And so the Rise of Skywalker, I think the Rise of Skywalker it's going to do pretty poorly. It may do better than the Last Jedi, but it depends on the rewatchability of it. If people go in, it's obviously going to have a big opening weekend. But if people look at it and say, "Oh wow, this we don't like it," you know, it's not rewatchable like the Last Jedi. That's what people had. That's why it just tanked. As far as the next week. So now, granted, I know they all made money except Solo. Solo's the only one that's bombed, but that is the aura that are around these movies. So we'll see. So George Lucas felt betrayed. I don't blame him. Kathy lied to him, straight up lied to him. They did not respect and treat the original characters with respect and dignity. They elevated Leia more than her character warranted. They then pushed down Han Solo and Luke Skywalker, and I expect them to do the same thing to Lando. Chewie was relegated to just a walking carpet, and R2-D2 was replaced as comic relief with BB-8, and that character's nowhere near as likable as R2. And of course, we've had some of the actors who play these characters die, and you know, it's going to be tough to move on from there. Anyway, as I've said in other videos, I just wish that instead of just making a sequel that's 30 years later, they should have done like 100 years and just had either flashbacks or, you know, 3D captures or something, or someone discovering the old ways, and you know, or maybe go, you know, 500 years into the future or something like that, when the new republic has crumbled and a new empire is rising or something like that. I don't know, but what they've done to the original characters in the original trilogy is criminal in my book. So there you go. So even Lucas is on the side of, yeah, these movies suck. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for clicking like, and we'll see you. Bye. So we gotta get this done. Quiet. Tell it. Oh, good grief. All right, 3, 2, 1. Hey, everyone. Quiet.